Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a graduated pearl necklace. Now for today's demonstration I'm going to be using these Swarovski crystal pearls, and you can see that I have 4 different sizes here, and this is the beautiful Scarabaeus green. So we have the 12, the 10, the 8, and the 6. So that's how we're going to do our graduated pattern for today. So again, like I said, this is the Scarabaeus green, but we do have several other colors that I just wanted to point out to you in case you wanted to kind of explore the beautiful range of Swarovski crystal pearls. So up here I have the iridescent, the light blue, the dark blue, which is so beautiful and almost velvety. We have the iridescent purple, red, and this is the lovely dove gray. It's sort of a very subtle gray. It's almost white. And then we have the iridescent Tahitian look pearl, which is a beautiful teal. And then this beautiful velvety chocolate brown. So those are some of the other colors that you can pull together when you're going to make your necklace. So I just wanted to kind of point that out to you as well. So there's lots of options that we offer here at beadaholique.com. All right, so the supplies that you're going to need is, of course, you're going to need your pearls. And then I wanted to add a little metallic element here, so I'm actually going to use seed beads. You could use metal beads as well, but the Miyuki gold seed beads are a great alternative if you don't have metal beads and just want to add a little flash in there. So we're going to be using those in the 11-0, the rounds. I have 2 bead stoppers here that are going to help me out. But for other supplies here, what we're going to need is we're going to need some crimp tubes. I have some thread and wire protectors here, some crimp covers, my box clasp, and we're going to be using the 19 strand Beadalon, and this is in the gold color, and it is the 0.015. So if you're looking to get this is the ideal wire to use for this project, and it has a nice beautiful gold color because we are going to see that just a little bit coming through. So the only other tools besides your bead stoppers that you'll need is you'll need a pair of flush cutters and the Xuron 4-in-1 crimping pliers, and then a ruler to help you out. All right, so if you have everything all set to go, let's get started. So we're going to begin first by taking our ruler here, and we are going to cut off about 24 inches of beading wire. Now this is going to make about a 17-inch necklace. You can absolutely make it longer if you like, and I'm going to show you how to do that as we get towards the end here. All right, so I'm just going to clip that off. And we can set our beading wire aside. I'm just going to cover it back up so it doesn't uncoil on me. There we go. All right, and now we're done with our ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 bead stopper and I'm going to place it a few inches from the end. It doesn't need to be exact, but we're ready to go and begin stringing. All right. So here's what I recommend. I would recommend starting in the middle because if you're not sure how you want to graduate your necklace, that's why we have our little bead stopper here so we can remove him and place him on the other side if we're not quite sure how we want to do it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start, and I like to work in an odd number, so I'm going to start with my 12mm beads and I'm going to add 3 of them, and I'm going to add a little seed bead in between each of them. So we're going to start with 1 seed bead, string on our 12mm, add a seed bead, string on my other 12mm, seed bead, and 1 more. And I'm going to kind of drop that down to what will in essence be the center of my necklace there. All right, so adding on 1 more seed bead because we want to make sure that there's a nice little seed bead in between all of them. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to do the same with the 10mm to see how I like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 on this side, and then I'll see if I want to add 3 on the other side. But again, just graduating that, and I think working in odd numbers will give you a better result. It just sort of works with the eye to give a center focal point. So if you wanted to, you could do 5 in the center if you wanted a bigger focal, so you could do 5 of the 12mm. It's entirely up to you. All right, and stringing on that one down, making sure to get a seed bead in between each one. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place a bead stopper on this side because I don't want to lose my beads. I'm going to remove it from the other side. And let's go ahead and just repeat that just to see how we like it. And this is how you can adjust your necklace as you go if you decide that you want, like I said, if you want 5 or you want more, it's entirely up to you. but this is the best way to do and to achieve that nice graduated style. All right, I'm going to end with one seed bead there. All right. I think that looks really nice. It's a nice little graduation there. So we have 3 of the 12 and then 3 of the 10 on either side. So let's go ahead and continue, and I'll just keep on this side. And I now am going to move on to my 8 millimeters, and I think I'm going to try to see how it looks with 5 on each side here. So we're just going to pick one up. There we go, come on. And you can see that the Miyuki seed beads are just adding a nice little metallic element there to the center. Just to give it a little bit of space too, I also think it helps with the graduation. Your eye kind of gets to look at the scalloping of the design as opposed to all those little pearls sitting next to each other. So just another little tip, you don't have to. You can also do this without the seed beads. All right, so I'm going to place my bead stopper there, and I'm going to move to the other side and remove my bead stopper. That's why these things are so wonderful to use. That way you can kind of keep going back and forth and just testing your design and seeing how it looks. It makes the whole thing just nice and easy. Also, if you wanted to, at this point you could adjust to make it, longer. You could actually make a really lovely long necklace if you wanted to. But I recommend when we do our sizing, you're going to want to size with the 6 millimeters because that's where we're going to use the most. All right, and one more on this side. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so how are we looking? Let's see. Oh, that actually looks really nice. So you see that it's just, you're off by 2 millimeters every time, but it's starting to really graduate. So once you have this nice big focal here, you start to really taper it off up there. So I'm ready to move on to our 6 millimeter beads here. So now we kind of are going to decide how long we want our necklace to be. So you get plenty of 6 millimeters to play with. So I've tested this out, and for me, I want a nice sort of collar length necklace, something that's a little bit tighter. I don't want something too long, so I think I'm going to go for a 17-inch. The smallest you'd probably want to go is maybe 15 or 16, but if you are giving this as a gift, you can always, instead of adding a box clasp, you can use a necklace extender. And that'll give you about 2 inches. So let's say you weren't sure if they wanted a 16, a 14, or an 18, or, kind of how they want it. You can always extend it. So you can make it 16 inches, and then they can extend it up to 18 usually. Or you can make a really long one, which is, 3-4 inches. So it's entirely up to you. All right, so one thing I want to point out to you about the Swarovski pearls, and you can kind of get in close on this, is that one side has a little bit more of a kind of open lip there. And actually, let me try to see if I can pick this up. So there's one side that's going to be a little bit more open on the hole, and you'll see this especially on the smaller beads, because then the other side has a little bit of a smaller, it'll look a little bit smaller. So sometimes this side is harder to string, so you can go through the hole that looks a little bit open, and it's just how they're coated and drilled. Once you get them onto the strand, you really don't notice that at all. But just in case you are having a little trouble trying to string your beads, I recommend trying to go through this larger size, like the larger side of the bead. So just a little tip if you're having trouble once you get down to these 6 millimeters. So, because while this wire is pretty stiff, it is still flexible. So exactly. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult just to string those pearls on there. All right, so let's see, where am I at so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can stop at any point and switch back to the other side to see how it's sort of laying. You can also understand that from here, if you wanted to add more of the 8 millimeters, you can kind of take these off and go back and add a few, but that way you're not, fully committed to it on either side. This is why I recommend you don't start with trying to string all of your 6 millimeters and then get to your 8, your 10, your 12, because then you might want to go back and adjust it as you're working. So just keep that in mind as well. that's why we do it this way. That's why I suggest anytime you're doing a graduated pattern that you kind of work simultaneously on both sides until you figured out the pattern that you want to do. All right, so I'm actually going to leave that there for just a second, and I am going to go to the other side. I'm actually going to flip it around just to make it a little bit easier on my stringing. There we go. And let's come over here, and I'm going to start on the 6 millimeters because I want to make sure it's balanced, but see what we got. And you don't have to use gold seed beads. You can use a color. Let's say you wanted to add a purple or just, maybe a black or something in here. You can do that as well. A blue would be very pretty as well. Or this one has a nice sort of green purpley quality to it, so you could actually maybe even add maybe a dark red if you wanted to go for something that is a bit more Christmas themed. So lots of options there. But this is a nice classic design and a little modern twist on it with these Swarovski pearls and the little seed beads. All right, so let's see where I'm at. I think I have a ways to go. Yeah, a few more to go here to match it up. And you can just see that I can just kind of eyeball it now. So I just need 2 more. So let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm going to take one of these off here because I know that I want it to be 14 because I'm going for a 17-inch necklace. So I'm going to leave it and I'm going to end it with 1 seed bead there. And then I just need to add just a seed bead and 1 more. And then I'll show you how we can finish it off. So this is a really kind of fast project. All right, so now I have my graduated necklace here. I'm just going to try to lay it out so you guys can see it. There we go. So it has a nice sort of round shape to it, but it really does graduate nice and easy. And it's just 2 millimeters in between each bead here for sizing. So we did 14, 5, 3, 3, 3, 5, 14. All right, so now we have finished with our seed bead here, so we're going to kind of scooch the long part of it out of the way here. So what we want to do now is we're going to get our clasp involved. So like I said, we have some crimp tubes, crimp covers, some wire protectors, and our clasp. So what we're going to do first is we're going to string on one of our crimp tubes, and we can slide that all the way down. And then these are little wire protectors, and they kind of look like little horseshoes. So you just thread up through one side, and then you're just going to thread down through the other, and it's just going to sort of catch, it's just going to catch your wire. There we go. And just go ahead and thread down. All right, so you kind of have your little tube here, and then it goes up and through the wire protector, and you can just pull snug, and then it'll just fit nice. But before we put this end through the crimp tube, we're going to string it up through the loop of the section of our clasp. And what we want to do is we want to allow that horseshoe to kind of catch in there, and then we're going to string our wire down through the crimp tube. Now, because this is the first side of our necklace, we don't need to scooch our pearls that close yet because we want to be able to have room to get our tool in there. The first side of doing a necklace like this is always easiest. All right, so I'm just wiggling it around. There we go. All right, so we're coming in with our Xuron 4-in-1 crimpers. We're going to use this little sort of arrow, this little triangle pyramid side to crimp our crimp tube first, and then we're going to rotate it, and then we're going to do the other portion of the crimp. So just to kind of get it in there, I'm going to set it in and sort of gently with my pliers there, Just going to crimp, and it's going to make a little V, and then rotate it in the pliers, and I'm going to move it to the second notch there because we're doing a 2 millimeter, and we're just going to crimp it down together. And then we have our nice little crimp on our wire protector. And the last part here is we're going to take one of our crimp covers, place it into our little pliers there. And this is where it's a 4-in-1 because this actually becomes a nice little chain nose plier. And we're going to get it around our crimp tube and crimp it over. And just this is going to cover up that crimp tube. This is a step you can do. You absolutely do not have to add a crimp cover. It just sort of adds a nice little finishing part to it. So all I'm doing is sort of just crimping it around so that I get a nice little kind of little ball there. All right. So let's see if I can string this down through a couple of the beads. I might not be able to. Those seed beads are small. Oh, I can. There we go. So I'm just going to take the wire and go down through a bead or two. And it looks like I can't get it through the pearl, so I'm just going to leave it at the edge of that bead, and then come in with my flush cutters, get in nice and close, and trim that off. Okay, so that's the first part. Now all we're going to do is just repeat that on the other side. So now I can slide all of my beads down, and I'm going to come around to the other side here, remove my bead stopper, and we're just going to repeat that whole thing on this side. So again, crimp tube, our little horseshoe here, pulling that down, oops, making sure it doesn't go through that crimp tube just yet because we haven't put on our clasp. There we go. So now we can pull it down a little bit tighter. Now we're going to take our wire and go through that clasp, make sure it hooks onto our little horseshoe. Sorry, this is a little fiddly. All right, and then down through the crimp tube. And while we're here, before we crimp it, because we have a little extra slack and a little extra space, I'm going to try to get that wire through that seed bead like we did on the other side. There we go. All right, so now leaving a little bit of room, and this is why I suggest trying to leave the clasp, maybe clasp, because you don't want it to be too stiff. If you try to pull it straight, you might end up with a necklace that won't curve nicely. So this is sort of, you know, allowing that curve to happen because we want our beads to sort of lay naturally. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same as we did on the other side, come in with our crimper, and we're just going to crimp down on our crimp tube, do the same little rotation. There we go. Get our little seed bead out of the way. They are glass, so you don't want to get them in the way. They could break. Crimp that. And then we have another one of our crimp covers. And now we're just going to cover that up and crimp around. And you can come on the other side. Yeah, I'm going to trim this right now. There we go. Just getting in my way. All right. And now we just want to make sure that that little bead has a nice closure to it. So I'm just kind of crimping it from all sides just to close it up. There we go. All right. And there we have our beautiful graduated pearl necklace. Super fun and really easy. This is a great gift if you know someone really loves pearls. This also looks beautiful in white as a nice little bridal necklace. You can also do it in lots of the other colors, as I mentioned before, and this could actually be a bridesmaid's necklace too. So any special occasion, this is a wonderful design. And please shop all of our beautiful Swarovski crystal pearls and all of these tools and supplies by heading over to Beadaholique.com.